Hi, you're listening to the NewSpace India podcast, a bi-weekly talk show that exclusively brings insights from the Indian space activities ecosystem. I'm your host Narayan, the co-founder of India's first space-focused think tank, Spaceport Sarabhai. Guests on the NewSpace India podcast help you understand space activities-related macro and micro trends within India in all aspects, including space history, local industry, space science, technology evolution, law and policy, art, and more. The NewSpace India podcast is supported by Dassault Systems, a global leader in providing businesses and people with collaborative virtual environments to enable sustainable innovations. Dassault Systems Solutions supports startups, small and medium-scale enterprises, and original equipment manufacturers in developing disruptive solutions for space launchers and satellites.
Happy to be this long series of talks from those who were and are associated with the Indian space program. Because some of them I find very recent person, some were almost near pioneers. God's grace, I happen to be one of the very early pioneers of the Indian space program. From July 1964, when I joined the Physical Research Laboratory, now I will refer it as PRL henceforth, with the father and the mother of Indian space program. People normally like to say him only as a father. He was also a mother. The tender care which is required, that is Vikram Sarabhai. Just one-to-one we can meet. Not even the social distancing of 3 feet. To that level we have to talk. And that's a great fortune to learn a lot of things from him. Directly, indirectly, khadi clad, white pajama, and there's a loose pajama, and this one, kurta on it, with a Kolhapuri chappal. He was a big man already, big businessman and other thing. It's a very, he used to drive his own car. In those good old days, there used to be one standard, which is completely off, because he is one of the reckless driver. He used to do it. There are many others in my later life. My colleagues in SSTC, Trivandrum as it was called, Thiruvananthapuram is what it is now. In MIT, Bill Salz, William Salz, Dick Nicholson, and NASA for 3 years, so many people. Later at ISRO headquarters, Professor Dhawan. Dr. Brahm Prakash, in future I will refer to him as BP. Similarly, Dr. Professor Dhawan, SD, T.N. Session. It's a great man which has very important role in formulating the governance and procedural sectors. If it was not there, ISRO would have gone into like any other government institution. Not that, when people say ISRO has got freedom, under government nobody has got freedom. What you have the freedom is you have to define within the overall constitutional limits what is your powers, whether it is PM, whether it is minister, and that is what suited to ISRO's R&D requirement, the risks involved and other thing, that is to be done and that is allowed. And once that is approved, you have to follow it strictly. That's what is called, this. It is not licensure just to do whatever I think I will. So this is a very important thing to be remembered. Dhawan, he can think about it, but he can't write it down because that was not his domain. It is T.N. Session who did it. His senior may well already left it all to him. I won't say much on that here. My tries to the Indian space program, later with technology, business linkages, education and variety of things, all this did not start with PRL. One should remember that I am sure that it will be so many of my colleagues who were in ISRO, but for me, I am very deeply aware those roots were set long ago. And the soil and seeds of my life was prepared much earlier, right from my childhood. I have briefly talked about this in a talk to the Indian Institute of Technology very recently, about 2 years or so ago, just before the COVID, etc. started, to the Vande Mataram group of IIT. My tries with Science and Technology India, about an hour, then another 1 hour Q&A. I don't like to repeat much of it there. There I have told what it is, and including some very plain things, and question and answers were much more franker. They are all in the YouTube. My Tries to Science and Technology, Y.S. Rajan, it'll be available. Otherwise, these things, the current, this one, how there are also some excellent talks in this series itself by many people who have done. Especially I will mention about S. Chandrasekhar, who has given the real management items which have come, and then the many crucial aspects of it he has dealt with. Typically, he is also a good teacher, having been a professor in IIM Bangalore, later after this thing. It was a good this thing. On industry, Sudarshan has given. And that one is the seeds of Atmanirbhar Bharat. And had he continued in ISRO with the same ecosystem, it was just not him alone, difficult to do in a government system. There was an ecosystem, but a unique person he was. Had he been there, India would have already emerged a big space industry already existing by about 2000, because 1988 he left. There are some good books written by ISRO, on ISRO also. Many people have done. I had encouraged some of them to write whatever they can. And of course, every writing has got the biases of authors and publishers, because some publishers don't want certain things. They want some spicy material and all that thing. So anyway, but still, they are all good contribution to understanding ISRO as a history. In India, most of the scientific institutions and also other institutions are very poor in even keeping their own records. This historical sense was given, I had it already, it was strengthened by Dhawan. He gave all his material to me, what we had done to be opened by our trustee and all that thing. So they have come in my life notes. I have written it 1940, 50, in a decade, 50, 60, 60, 70, etc., etc. When it came to 80, 90, it became so much, about 15,000 pages, then I started recording. And I believe that one should always see, not purely by memory, you should try to authenticate with some artifact, something written at that time. Fortunately, because Professor Dhawan gave me, I could relate to some of it and then say what it is. Then many of the other things later, it was so tiring, I have put it in tape recorder, I have finished all that. So, and in addition, poetry which I started writing in 1969 onwards, 67, 69 onwards, some of it are in one is on Sarabhai after his death. So these things are also there. They are living records, because certain things you can't express it in prose. It becomes either blunt and crude, or it may look insipid. But poetry takes a different. So those things are also there. They are all in the public domain. That is both Tamil and English. I intend to narrate today. Now, because I gave this background, because among this milieu, I will have to pick up some. And I as a person, never like a monologue. Even though in a discussion, I may talk more time. But I take very important the cue what they said, and more importantly, I keep seeing the faces of people. This is something which is not available in the two-dimensional talk, even for Zoom, etc. Fortunately, we are able to see the people. But it is much more seeing it three-dimension. I talk to even 1,000 audience. I make them to alert and then make them interact. But anyway, I am going to pick up some and then give it, in order that I be able to say something about some individuals people would not have thought. And they are the people also one should look at, because it is not only the leaders and the big managers who did it, and they did it. And also to see several facets which is in the long supply chain which made ISRO successful. So they may have been in the lower rungs. Then somebody who have something or some events which have made impact on me, which I may not have realized at that time. Sometimes I might have even felt what a terrible thing happened. But those things have what it is. So these are the things. But what I say about certain individuals are real stories, not made up for pleasing audience. Because they say Janaranjaka. I don't talk Janaranjaka. I try to be as truthful as possible. Now I go to my early life. Born 1 year before the atom bomb, 3 years before independence. Though parents stayed in Bombay, she will go and deliver in somewhere. It's a place called Kottaram Thirumalai Kolundupuram in Tamil Nadu, very down south near Tirunelveli district, unelectrified village. And apparently it was born in April. They call Agni Nashatram. That is the period. I don't know how much my mother would have suffered. Even a fan won't be there. They have to be doing like this. But anyway, that's where I was. After she died, variety of other things I'm cutting out. It might be somewhere, etc., etc. Taken care of my Periyappa and Periyamma, who were issueless. My father's elder brother, he was about 16 years younger, elder to him. My mother treated them as her own mother and father. So there, in that and then another 4 years nearby, my interest in Tamil, I studied Tamil medium, and then special Tamil I have taken, Subramanya Bharati. That is what I have explained it in the Vande Mataram. A remarkable poet who not only did the beauties of the poems, he revolutionized Tamil poems, prose, everything. He was a great nationalist. And he saw to it was only not the freedom. He saw how modernization has to be done. And it is not just saying that we will have like a poet. He has given a lot of nitty-gritty detail. A couple of poems are there. They were all in me. That will be science, technology, industry and everything. And how to bring it, etc. Then other this thing will be a casteless society. Everything he has talked about. Then bringing up women. 1905 to or 10 maybe. In that period, everybody was interested in this one. Some independence was more. Of course, casteless society some people talked about. But to give women a special role, that was a lot of poems about it. And that has remained with me. Nationalism and then the use of science and technology. In addition, bringing up women in all walks of life in the modern India. And I have done it right from my time, all the time, from my ISRO days to this. And I am very happy that most of them respect me on that. Then, one other thing, completely different, is that ours is to define in the modern terms, we would have been a low-income family. Though it is an extremely erudite family. My grandfather was a Ganapatigal. He knew all the Vedas and all that thing, plus also many other things. He had told me and my sister in the village, no electricity, after food 6:30, what do you do? About 1.5 hours to 2 hours, entire Mahabharata and Ramayana by him. And he will take it to a level, all this today's TV serial people and all will go to, I wish we had a tape recorder. We didn't have even electricity. What a tape recorder. It will take you to a peak and it'll stop. Today it is over. Please tell. We both have, no, tomorrow. And this went on for 4 years. We learnt a lot. And I have compared it later with what he said in actual reading of full Mahabharata. It is fantastic. And in addition, some slokas. That has rooted me in the civilizational thing of India, which was also given by Subramanya Bharati and many bhakti poems and all. So this is my foundational thing. At the same time, a lot of love for science and technology, India, at the same time, modernization, casteless society and all. Now I will have to fast forward. Come to Bombay. Bombay, they all family moved. 57. That's the year, a few months later, the Soviet, this one came, nobody knew what the significance of it for the humankind. The Sputnik went. Anyway, English medium, switch over to English medium, these things were not a problem. College studies, but the main thing was my uncle, my father's elder sister's husband. He used to buy almost all books in English, and I devoured all of them in addition to my studies. The things will be so many. Things, I will tell some few. Vivekananda's writing, Aurobindo, Nehru's writings, especially Discovery of India and Glimpses of the World History. Then Shivananda, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan's universities, there are so many books, all sorts of English novels, literature like Idiad, etc. Not that I understood everything, but I will read. Then many philosophy books on Buddha, the mentor books, the compassionate Buddha, Dhammapada and all that stuff. Aldous Huxley, somehow that, after reading Aldous Huxley, it will be very disturbing. He gives the fate of how the humanity will be. Real, some of it. Many other English books, read but forgotten. I don't even remember them. Most of them are not there. I have got a few with me because I have to move around variety of places. Also, my studies in science was rooted in my mind, especially because of physics and maths. Science was another big anchor. Some teachers were very good. Even now, if somebody says something which violates the basic principles of science, biology or any one of it, I will immediately, I can't be tolerating it. Oh, this is also another point of view. I will immediately do that. I was very good in experiments too. And this actually, I lost touch with many of my college students, colleagues, because in those days we can't even write. Then I went out to Ahmedabad and keep writing, and fellows would have moved around here and there. Some would have gone abroad, etc., etc. So finally, these people, one recently contacted me, PCA Nair, somehow he got out of me. Then he told me many things where I used to solve problems for people, I used to fix some experiments, etc. So it was there. I was also exposed to politics of India. This is very important. Because oftentimes, Professor Dhawan, when he is talking to me, he will talk about political economy and all that stuff. Exposed to politics of George Fernandez and a variety of people, all, it was a crucible for them. Trade union politics, then Shiva Sena rising with some of the South Indian, anti-South Indian, and then later they became something else, etc., etc. Many such things, many regional parties with different socialist names. Then teeming crowds of Bombay, lots of lepers, beggars, lepers and everything, but Bombay continuously busy. Prohibition. I have seen the effects of prohibition, how criminals were being done and how things were, many things. I have seen many of it, and some of them I have spoken also, lightly. Because I am not that type of activist, will go and find out what it is. But the fellows who are there, they will tell me. In all this, because of the Bombay was having so many slums, my mind was always with the poor. This is the Bharati effect. Fast forward, joint PR. There are so many events there in Bombay. I am not mentioning it because they were all lot of shaping. I just finished MSc when I was 20. Because of a jump from village to Palayangote, this thing, about 3 years I gained. From 4th to I went to 7th. So he did something. The man who admitted me put something in. So he put it in 1943. So that is what it is. So PR, cosmic rays, astronomy. We have to read as a PhD interns. We don't start with the research program. We have to read many of it. Atmospheric physics. Also practical work with lathes, transformer winding, glass blowing. Is a compulsory for PhD students. This is unique, which Sarabhai had done it. Later I realized what it is. I'll make a glimpse of it later. A huge library of PRL. Oh God, the amount of books which were there, advances in electronic, advanced MIT radiation lab series, most of them, very little of literature, but many international journal, etc. Yes, Chandrasekhar's magnetohydra. I used to devour all of them because I used to be good in maths as well as physics. So, hydrodynamics, geophysical journal, above all, these are all physical artifacts, topics. Above all, Vikram Sarabhai. He used to come in between Worldwell visit, talking to faculty and also the workers in the workshop. What a magnetic person. For me, I was in the same floor. A lot of things happened when I quit, when I decided to quit PhD, but he did not lead me. I am not telling all of that. They are all somewhere else written. I remember him talking while talking to one Kimji Bai, worker. That Kimji Bai is a little older, senior worker in the PR, a small workshop. When he goes up to his floor, you can see, Kimji Bai, that is, you do this, because some things you would have told that it will take that much time. And so the faculty, somebody, sir, you tell. Almost everything after talking to people, he doesn't wait for director and all. Ho jayega sahab. Here his voice will be like, ho jayega sahab. When he says it will be over. It will be done. Some items, nahi hoga sahab. Even when Sarabhai says, he'll then negotiate with him. नहीं साहब नहीं होगा, ये कुछ होगा, काम का चीज़ नहीं होगा, मैं ऐसे नहीं करूँगा. So, but irrespective leaves it like that. Then this thing is, all he will achieve most of the unimaginable precision. That is that man. Then Vikram Bhai will respect him. He will leave it. Same was his dealing with the technician in the SSTC, Space Science and Technology Center in Trivandrum. I have seen it because we used to be there in Turds and also later. He will remember the names of many of those people who will do critical work. Maybe one can say no, having known many other big people working, they may not remember at all, but they will ask somebody to give the names. But I don't know what he did. But he will remember also a little bit talk in Malayalam because of his wife's being a Malayali. He knew that also. So these are all the things. So he was dealing with the whole spectrum of people. Along with all this busy, he has got a business, he has got so many other outside engagements. All these had a deep impact on my functioning. Even after he became chairman of Atomic Energy Commission, he used to be at the work. The whole, it is not just PhD and research. The whole chain of workers and professionals are crucial for achieving. Is something got embedded. Otherwise, normally research scholars will do some work, etc. I got to tell about 2-3 events which are very unique, but we didn't know. He used to make us do, right? He had got a lot of World War II junk, so that people can play around with it and do things. Between me and Kastur Rangan, V.S. Iyengar and me were in the balloon group. Sarabhai's ambition was to develop a balloon group. And we wanted to do it with more payload on the top. And then therefore you have to do radio transmission. Probably India's first FM transmission was done by us. IMD what did was AM transmission. But we didn't know that. We had taken from this, etc., etc. Then another one, unique individual was Ratilal Pancha. I don't know whether in any of the items of ISRO's, these things they write about it. Sarabhai used to get, mostly in those earlier days, rocket from somebody, this one from France, this one from scientist, etc. There is a sodium vapor. The sodium vapor is a canister which is put in the rocket and then gone up to 150, 200 kilometers up, it will be burst open. Then the vapor will spread. 2-3 different places they keep the Kanyakumari, one Uttagamand, one Trivandrum, etc. They will take the photo, triangulation. So with that, and then the sun rays falling, sodium vapor very beautifully will come. One can study the spread of atmospheric winds. It's one of the important research. Now, scientists are given, the rocket is from somebody, when they try to fit it in, it touches. So in the vibration, it will explode. So how to trim it and then put it in? So some 4-5, and it is in a magnesium canister because they wanted to reduce weight. And what is to be trimmed is some fraction of a millimeter or millimeter or so. And if you do too much, it'll bust. So almost everybody, all big mechanical engineers and everybody, they said, sir, it won't come. So we have to send it back. Now you have to do. Sarabhai is not a person who will say, let me take. Then he flew Ratilal Panjal. He came with him. The director SSTC, big man. He comes all the way, put it, almost everybody ran away from I have seen it myself. Everybody will run away because in the workshop, Karaj pulling like this. So he will be there. And he was there. Ratilal Panjal told him, Saab, pass mein nahi aana. He judged the whole thing. Ho jayega, Saab. Done. 1, 2, 3, 4, fitted flight. Then I talked to him. Ratilal, साहब वो तो ऐसे अच्छा करके करेंगे अभी कुछ नहीं बस हो गया. He had also a little bit of, but Sarabhai was standing all the way there. He was not going to leave him. Because in those days you can't get a big fire engines and things like that from. It would have been tough. So that Ratilal Panjal is not only such a high precision one. He saw us doing amphenol, cable, all the cable plugs and all what we put now. Amphenol used to be the only sole we used to import. Foreign exchange was very limited. NASA was giving some. So he saw us doing. Me and Louis is my colleague. So he'll say, Saab, because in PRL, because we were developing it in PRL. Saab, मैं ये ऐसे करके लाऊंगा. I will do like this. You only test. See, he is not a great engineer, but he knows you can do by testing by substitution. If you want to use a jargon test, we used to measure and give him. And he was a supplier for defense forces and everybody, including us, many RF labs, etc. It was called EMRI. He did it. And he later, when it grew up, he also knew how to outsource it. Somebody will do the pin, he will integrate it. But all this, he will do outside the PRL. PRL work he will do. After that 8 hours of work only, he will do these things. Then he could have expanded big. I asked him once later, Saab, hamara to bachcha nahi hai. I don't have any children. So what is the point of I got enough, I am supplying whatever it is. Let it be. I don't know whatever happened of the EMRI later. Another one person from UP, one Garg, he did Teflon wires. Why I am mentioning this is, there are people, the talents existed then. But the ecosystem didn't pull them up. Because, okay, this is not in this thing. They will look at some big public sector. And private sector was stymied in those days. So, with me, there are several things after my leaving PhD. So, these are the 2 things I wanted to tell. People were there, and there may be many more in other. I joined PRL as an engineer. Sarabhai did. And PhD and basic research is more for engineering for rockets, payloads, transponder, etc. So I am not mentioning all of the details there. It's a very important critical equipment developed in India. We flew it successfully also. Then he sent me to join a group on MIT group. That is somewhere around 70. We had come back. Unfortunately, end December 71, he died. But we were there. From there to transported to NASA. Another important thing is about Sarabhai. He was such a charming person, and his network international. He knew Defense Secretary McNamara, Jerome Bisner of MIT. Anybody to anybody, ask, he will know. That is who he wanted to bring. Of course, young man, had he lived, he would have brought all of them, World Bank, loan, etc., because country was cash trapped. And you can't fund projects by anyway. Among all these things, he had the ability to spot people. And he was not only doing this initial work, etc., but also spotting people for future. I was also one of them. He has given me, and he has somehow thought that I will be the person who will, after transponder, will go to NASA, get exposed to satellite technology. I am not the only one. About 100 of them would be there. Even at his time, in those days, with the cash-strapped thing. I am not putting some to Japan, some to this thing, variety of them. I had my forays during this period when I was in PRL, 5 years. I had my forays into Marx, Engels, Lenin, which I had not read before. Even though I will see a little bit, lot of it, a little bit of Mao Zedong in Ahmedabad, deep impact on me. Then Yaman Roy, there's a fantastic book, Reason, Romanticism and Revolution. It's actually, people will think, what will be there in Ahmedabad? There was a Unity Library. It's a treasure house of so many things. I am not going to. So this, but it gave me an deep interest about many of these variety of forms of governance, etc. But at some point of time, I knew what is happening in India and variety of other reasons, decided the idea of, otherwise a serious idea of joining politics, off. Then it's all God's grace, is Sarabhai's great pulling effect towards a purposeful space program. After that, no going back. The great ideas, full-fledged devoted to space program. First foreign visit to Boston, USA. ISRO MIT study. I never seen. But Bill Salz, the study leader, he had explained many things about what is happening with great scholars from India who come. He has seen them in MIT. Rajan, I don't know why your people, so brilliant they are, they go and select a very narrow item of theoretical thing and then keep on churning, and they do good papers. But why can't they do something very practical for the country? MIT Lincoln Lab was of that type. You can't be just be theoreticians, even though you are in MIT. So he has given many of it, how to work and how to do things, etc. Great learning. Then loaded me with a lot of technical work which I did. Then also, I still remember, even today, we were grilled. After we do the study, MIT reviews it. In that, in antenna part, how can I, because it is sometime where the first time the blocking for the ATS satellite, nobody has done a satellite like that before. So that calculations we have done, I did it, and in today's, many of them will be computer subroutine. You have to use lambda functions and all that. Did it, and that he had the confidence, he made me to do it. So that gentleman, he was an Italian name, great expert in antenna. He said, Bill, I can't just say, I have to see the calculations. About 45 minutes he grilled me, went through all that. Then he went in and then said, Bill, I agree. Oh, what a relief. You're 26 years. So these are the type of things, you see the faith Sarabhai keeps in you. And you become almost practically fearless. You think you know, and then you have to know. And then you get appreciated. So anyway, later at NASA, John Tolle, Anthony Sabelhorst, Bernie Trudel, I have to say these names because they gave me lot of freedom, which normally they won't put you as a trainee, come and see. So how the contracts work and how it is there. I have even been given administrative parts of how they negotiate, etc., etc. Those 3 years grew me professionally. These thanks to Sarabhai, even though he was gone. I saw also real America, unlike what the leftist socialist press in India were talking as if it is a terrible place, all fellows are. So you saw the other side also, what it is. Then, all these years, 64 to 74, till I returned, 73 in November I returned. I was hardware, systems engineering, doing it, testing. But that was a very good grounding. You don't start from your college and then start doing some systems analysis. It's not that you are rooted in it. Probably because of that. Even though some people he took directly, Professor Dhawan, when he was building it up, he took me. And for me, there was no other go. A huge thing which can tell about the greatness of Dhawan. I didn't know him at all till I met him. But he had decided that I will be in his road quarters, even though you are Rao, Yashpal, all wanted. So, then I should say before going into it about Sarabhai. With that, after that, I won't tell it. It's not only space. Everybody says space. Father of the space program, I say father and mother of the space program, but that is not the only one. He saw science and technology as a continuum to modernize India, to give better life for its people. There are some things, I have written it elsewhere, I have spoken in some places. There are some very few documents which are available where he has given convocation addresses for IITs and all. There, it is the one that you use it for so many missions, agricultural mission in UP, agro-industry complex in UP, like that. Variety of them, including population control, power, not just nuclear. Even though he was a nuclear chief, he won't look at, he was very, very broad based on science. He was not pushing only space for everything. So those missions, had they been completed, had they been adopted, if some of them, India would have been a very, very developed country with a rich per capita income, even before 2000. But those were embedded in me. If somebody thinks that the fellow says no, in 1971 when he died, a great man's death. It comes in Agony and my book, English book, Agony and Harmony, English poetry book, and Great Man's Death, on hearing Vikram Sarabhai's death at NASA. In fact, the NASA fellows say, what a poignant one. There I tell about all the things which he had in mind. Agro complex, everything. So, Bharati's vision on one side. Other side is Sarabhai actualized them for me. So that was my mission for all life. So I have taken this much time in explaining because that is the base, foundation, bunyad. This is seeing it as a necessary continuum of it. And now I transition to Satish Dhawan. Because I am taking it as if what happened in my life, what I saw, and how people shaped me. And Sarabhai, even after his death, was in me all through. And Satish Dhawan, another stalwart, succeeding stalwart. Normally, most places it doesn't work. Because one stalwart, second stalwart thinks that he should put an impact. I told about it very bluntly in the IIT, this thing. My first decade of work was in hardware. Now, SD made me to move into other territories closely related to science and technology. I love to become a satellite making, etc. He pushed me towards systems management, industrial cooperation, dealing with government, even parliament matters, planning commission, public relations, international, variety of them. As scientific secretary is a role which will be diffused. On one side a staff, one side a COO with the current this thing. And SD gave a full shape to many of his ideas through the position called Scientific Secretary ISRO. And at a young age, 31, most of my seniors, rank hierarchy, they were very high. I was in the lower grade. I was just starting in my 30s. Dealing with top persons and also persons at various levels. This was probably you would have looked at it. Here, in fact, I told him, sir, why are you giving me this? You should take somebody who is around 50, 55 so that they can retire with you. Because you can't take. ISRO had also gangs, tribes, etc., in a positive sense. So you get attached. Here with him, you can't get attached. So your future is in trouble. Even then, he says no. Here it is, I being a young age, knowing lot of it, so I can give respect from the young. So the link between the young and the top often in organizations get lost. It becomes a hiatus. Old has got experience, but very poor in technical knowledge. Young has got technical knowledge, but not the organizational nuances. So this is the one you have to shuttle between. So I just briefly described. On the top were Dr. BP, Dr. Brahmprakash, Vellodi, Seshan, Govarikar, U.R. Rao, Muttunayagam, Yashpal, S.C. Gupta, I can tell. And some of them were fathers of those areas. U.R. Rao in satellite, Govarikar for propellant, A.E. Muttunayagam on propulsion, like that. And Seshan was made the entire administrative and other thing to make it run. Not only do it, run it, and then show them negotiations, so many things. Without him, it would not have come. Friendship with Dr. Kalam, of course, is there. Was there from 1965, 12.5 years. He was not at the top of the echelon. He was in the next level. I will be much lower. He was for 12.5 years, this thing. That is SLV related and all came. I won't tell much about it because I've already written about it in a book on Abdul Kalam, Ninaivugalukku Maranam Illai. Memories don't die. Along with his niece, some 700 pages in Tamil. Many things about it, so I will not deal with it here. Hopefully it will come in English soon. Those 10 years with SD totally changed me, prepared me for the future forays beyond ISRO after 1988. The details about how he did management, yes, Chandrasekhar has told very well. Those are very important. But there are many more. Of course, he also could not have completed everything there. Those details are in my life, and I mentioned before, and I have seen both Sarabhai and Dhawan in close quarters. Sarabhai, if Sarabhai can be described, the two different, entirely different personalities. If Sarabhai can be described as a dashing startup entrepreneur, SD was a consolidator and doer to make that enterprise into a unicorn. I'm using modern lingo. So it was a totally different management style. He was as participative as Sarabhai in the details of work, because Dhawan was very clear about the details of work. He was not just somebody who says, oh dear, because he's a par excellence engineer also. You can take the screwdriver and do it. He injected a strong analytical mode, critical internal reviews, high quality demonstration, high quality documentation in all phases. Documentation is very poor with most Indians. And organizations like ISRO, we almost followed the NASA type system. Everything, even a small change done, it is to be done. And you can't just change it. I didn't like this wire and pulled it out. It is to be recorded and reviewed. So there are so many things like that. So at the same time, he ensured, even though the government power was all with him, Chairman Space Commission, Chairman, Secretary Department of Space, and he tried to make it, not use it into centralization. That is a great thing. It's a very difficult process. Scientific Secretary ISRO was one of his process, and then the program officers what he had with some of my colleagues who were in the ISRO headquarters. Chandrasekhar also was one of it. Sudarshan was one of it. So those type of things were done by him. In India, general tendency for people is, if your boss is willing to take decision, then you push it upward because you are safe. So you don't have to break your mind. But he will not let that. He and Dr. Brahmprakash saw to it that the others take the decision to make the system work. And because why they did it? Not to avoid responsibility. They will take the, finally when the SLV failed, he said, I take the responsibility. To the parliament, he said, I take the responsibility. But here, if you don't have, your system has to become big, have to do much, achieve, do operational, do commercial, it is a collective. It is a multidisciplinary, yet towards a single goal. Not that each fellow is taking one, it won't come like that. So in the process, ST would have to set up about 100 new management tools, mechanisms, not done anywhere. If I list all of them, in fact, nobody has done it to that level. In fact, S. Chandrasekhar was telling, someday Rajan we should sit and do. As we see people, they will tell a few things here, there, etc. These mechanisms evolved and all participants understood the rules of the game. Some of the things I have given examples. Transparency with planning commission, zero-based budgeting, international cooperation, such a thing. I had been dealing with so many 20, 30 countries. He made me to visit them, see what it is, so that you can have selectively and focused manner. Not only the institutions and also industries. Afterwards, lot of other technical detailed people will go. So I had this overview. Empowering project managers with boards, so that they will have a lot of freedom. At the same time, there will be oversight. Then be transparent to media. Every 6 months, we are taking them all over. They will visit themselves, not just a public release and chairman ISRO review. Industry as a partner, as a deliberate policy. Sudarshan is one of the important offshoot of making it. Outsource from ISRO as much as possible. This is done 1975. Though there is resistance from the internal group, not necessarily maliciously, because you have to go to somewhere, city, telephones are not working, that type of thing. Then developing R&D strength related to space in academic institution, respond program at cost. Then user interface mechanism. Also, he did quietly something for defense, because this is an important tool. In fact, when people ask him, even in press when they have asked, are you peaceful? Yes, we are peaceful. But what will happen, sir, some few decades from now, I can't say. That's for the country to decide, for the people to decide. So those type of things I played. I'm happy that I played a lot of role in many of these. I'm going to tell only about one item, National Natural Resource Management System. Here, if today somebody says that I want agriculture, fortunately many things have come. Agriculture, how the yield is. You do after the reporting, it's no use. Can you do during the growth cycle? Then similarly on geology, water resources, there are so many possible. And this has been demonstrated little bit here, there and all. And that is the role of the Indian remote sensing satellite program. In addition to the complex spacecraft and hardware and everything, this user thing has to be done. For INSAT, communication satellite, it was relatively easy because telecom was monopolized by ministry, one ministry, TV by another one ministry, meteorological satellite by another third ministry. So over. So you coordinate with them, you have a mechanism. It's not easy, but he did it well. This will be hundreds of ministries and agencies. Even within agriculture, there will be so many. So here, natural resource management, he utilized planning commission so that everybody has to come in. So it is a long process. I played a very major role between we two. We have done a tremendously important work, bringing all of them together. And where he created standing committees for this Apex committee. If it is agriculture related, Secretary Agriculture itself, he may not be a scientist, doesn't matter. But they are the people. So like this we had some very remarkable gentleman I have to remember, Krishnan Unni from geologist, is gone recently. R.S. Murthy, B.K. Rao, there are many of them. This process almost A to Z is a thing which set up. That is why the GIS and all that thing, remote sensing, it has taken different shapes after he went off, but a lot of spreading took place of it. I also left. It is the entire proceedings of the India, how it used in 70-75 time frame, when it didn't have a satellite. It had some only Landsat data, some aerial data, etc. And how it used is recorded in a international, it is a peer-reviewed journal, International Journal of Remote Sensing. 2 volumes were completely devoted for that. So that is something where such items are required. Why I am mentioning it is not only for the resource management. You do water, How do you do water? Water will have impact on something. You have Swachh Bharat, it will have some impact on something. So many of them are linked. And fortunately, the modern India has got lot of mobile communication. In fact, he has written on Mewars. I have not told about it here. This is in my one of my talk on Dhawan Memorial Lecture. I think I am almost coming close to 50 minutes. I will do some fast forward. Here, I have talked about it. He called Mewars because he didn't like a one-way communication of this resource data, etc. He wanted to get back from people. You can monitor lake, you can so many things. At that time, that was one of his very seminal papers. And also he has written about planetary engineering for future, which he thought he was not going to be somebody, you sit only with remote sensing and communication. So this thing, but to do it, you have to do it in a systematic form. That was his thing, because he was an engineer, he is a doer. So then, I need to specially mention in my international relationship, Dr. Hotel of DFELR. Actually, they played an important role in high altitude testing of liquid engines. Probably Dr. Muthanayagam may be able to explain quite a bit. And many areas, many Indian engineers, and they were exposed to many of these. Later, he didn't call them as training program, because he said that we are equal partners. We are doing a lot of joint project also. And Professor Dhawan's one of the great friend was academician Petrov in those Aryabhat days, and N.S. Noviko. He was one of the important member of the CPSU, Soviet Communist Party, but he dealt us with little friends. He was the one man who can speak English. So after the Aryabhatta success, he called me and then a couple of others, told, please remember one thing, you people were lucky, your first satellite itself, even though some hiccups was there, it was working. This success should not go to your head. Remember this, we had many failures. So, that type of relationship. Then the people who took care, 2 young ladies they put for the launch there, because we were in army town. There was no hotels. Those 2, phenomenal. I have written about it somewhere else, not in the public domain yet. They took care that our 50 fellows, all young, to average age of 27, most of them, they want dal, bath and other thing, a few eating chapati, but there will be nothing there. About 70% vegetarian. They didn't know what is vegetarian. Avashni means it will come along with meat, so we have to tell. So variety of it. I learned, because of the PhD, I learned Russian language, so I could write and show them. All that you have to tell. That is without meat, without this thing, or they will be, what the hell? Some of them won't even take egg. So they took care and then they gave us a party. One was around 45. Anyway, these are all some great events. It was a love of the people themselves. I was also very deeply involved in the first manned space flight. Madam Gandhi had informally okayed it with Brezhnev. Then she lost the election. Morarji Bhai was not so keen. Professor Dhawan was not clear. He was worried that it should not detract the program, because they should not bulldoze and then give some men and other things like that. But anyway, we went through secretly without even informing anybody. I was very deeply involved. I used to go, you say, Rajan, you deal with it. PK call. And then later, slowly it came into the public domain. There, so much I learned. And then one academician, Gazyanko, the man who knew everything as a medical doctor, but also space technologies. Oh my God, he knew everything. he told me, I still remember, see, our problem when the space flight is not how to send men or women into it. After a long time, when they come back, how will they readjust? That's the problem. Because man adjusted anywhere. Now, transition to UR Rao. I left off quite a few things of Dhawan. 84. He wanted to he wanted to leave. because he didn't want to continue at 64. Even at 60, he wanted to leave. He had told me. But anyway, you are wrong. Professor Dhawan could not affect many organizational changes he wanted to do to ISRO to accommodate the growth of both the program as well as people. You can't just have one person. He wanted many people to come to, because everybody feels that they want a decision making. That he could not complete. So it had some problems in the beginning. And anyway, so if you say the transition was smooth, I had written about the Indian space program. I gave it and then showed it to him. It was only to Dhawan's period. But it won't be in his style. It was nothing praising or something. It is a very good on Indian management of Indian space program. It has come in Academy of Sciences. Kalam and Narasimha edited that whole book. In that it comes. So I gave it to him just before doing. In fact, Sudarshan, after reading, he said, Rajan, you are given about 10 research problems in it. I hope some fellows in management institutions will do. Professor Dhawan told, Rajan, it's your paper. He's written it there. It is your paper. However, you didn't talk about transition. Then I said, sir, this paper is written in 86. You are 84. You left. It is too early for a data. We'll see. I told him in his time. So, anyway, by and large it has stood, but there have been problems. I will end the ISRO part. On Kalam, I have told that I already written. Then I went, and only one thing I have to mention about, I will tell about my whole ISRO. My role, finally, I am very happy that in 1996, Dr. Kalam, when he wrote The Wings of Fire, I had seen most of the draft, so many times round. But I think last minute he introduced it, that is before printing. That will roughly give what turned out to be a role. He has written it after 20 years. He need not have written at all. So he says, I had the fortune of having O.S. Rajan from ISRO headquarters as my friend in those times when he is writing about the SLV-3 part. Rajan was and is a universal friend. His friendship embraced with equal warmth turners, fitters, electricians, contractors, and bureaucrats. Today, when the press calls me a welder of people, I attribute this to Rajan. His close interaction with different work centers created such a harmony in SLV-3 affairs that the fine threads of individual efforts were woven into a mighty fabric of great strength. See, he is an advanced composite man. He can always think in terms of it. But binding material is bound. As the famous Hindi serial a decade ago, there was something called, they are repeating it now, called Bandini. Even I am bound with ISRO. Even now, I might have left, I didn't come for anything, I won't come for any of those things, etc. till Radhakrishnan had me later as a distinguished professor. Many think that I was only a distinguished professor. That was something which he gave for a future, looking at from 2010 to 2012. Thinking of a new future. In fact, the current chairman, Somanath, was the convener. I was chief mentor. We had a cream of the young people. This is a very special idea of Radhakrishnan when he became chairman. So we did that. But still, I keep in touch with the space program and all. But I will not interfere with any of the work of ISRO, even when I was around. No executive one. But lot of things taking place. So it is that which is in there. So it is a bound. I am bound with it. Now, with this, my ISRO story stops. 88, but still continuing, etc., etc. Then I went on to a completely new terrain. That is the Sarabhai's second part of Sarabhai. Applying science and technology to all walks of life. To textiles, to garbage processing, what is that called? slaughterhouse waste, to very advanced things. If today you find clays, earth clay, many people think that way, then they see a pot, oh, very good, this is natural. And some people were going, when the one minister made it into the pot, earthen pot, oh, it is terrible, that soil, because because of my NNRMS thing, I remember deeply. It takes 1,000 years to form about a few inches of topsoil. And you take it out, and that is the best one required for pot. So you need to take it out and then use fly ash, coal ash, etc. So fly ash machine. At that time, 3% was used. Now India uses everything. Now you find even bricks or today. So like this, I'm just giving an example. Advanced composites. Then sugar technology, many homegrown technology. They are all initial venture capital. A great man, V. Krishnamurthy. Maruti fame, SAIL fame. He was the chairman of TIFAC. Govarikar was secretary DST. So I went there totally out of ISRO. In fact, Gopi Arora asked me, he was a finance secretary, etc. Rajan, can you help me? You do technology forecasting, assessment and all. Can you help me in assessing different paths for ISRO, atomic energy? Sir, he had a very big, all his. They said, sir, I can. Technically, yes. But please leave me alone. They are mighty organizations. I'm a lean. They are big bulls. So if they charge on me, I may be a problem. But therein was a very important seed of a very good bureaucrat. Gopiara, he was an IAS officer. I had many IAS officers as friend, IA and AS, many of them. Because I had to deal with NNRMS and then later TIFAC. So the thing is like this. This is what, had Dhawan been around, he would have done it. Probably he would have done it. His method of thinking will be, how do you have an external source who is reasonably knowledgeable to give alternate paths? In America, they have a lot of such systems. In India, you don't have. It's only within ISRO. So you don't know whether you have seen everything right. That is why Professor Dhawan wanted to develop outside in the academic system, but they did not pick it up. Everybody goes to some slash. Then I say that I am a propulsion system. You don't. That's important part. But over, it's in a small. So these are all a few things. TN session, just like Dr. Kalam, TN session of a different type from 74 onwards, all through till his sad demise. He wanted to write a book with me on the management of the program and what are the crucial elements. I wish he had done it. But he had some other these things. So he says, I will get everything done, but you have to give input to a person which is there, etc. But what they were, what are the crucial elements and what is missing now and how to do it in the new context. So these are all there. That is all. Then that's all. I think then subsequently I will quickly fast forward. TIFAC was a very painful thing. It is during that period after I went to Delhi, I was also reaching mid-40s. You see realities of life, because that charging by Bharati and then Sarabhai also grinds you. Even within ISRO, many things could not be done. Then when you see the other external worlds, their ecosystem, here at least a thing where the lower entropy was formed by people like Dhawan, Brahmprakash, Seshan, and also the government itself. But there it is a chaos. To achieve in India, after everybody agrees, it takes about 7 to 10 years. I have written it in Administrative Reforms book. So it is that part given and realities of life. At the same time, I was not giving up. So the best way will come in poems. It has come in a lot of Tamil poems. I used to exchange it with Dr. Kalam. But not only on this. There are other things also. WTO. So many things will come. But the one is, that is why the first book, English book, the title is Agony and Harmony. There I have explained in all my book I write a preamble. Not of course like Bernard Shaw writing almost half the book will be his preamble. But it's like this. Doing change, effecting a change is a very, very painful process. I used to tell my colleagues in TIFAC, it is like carrying a cross. If somebody puts a towel just for you in the shoulder, thank them. If somebody doesn't put a spear in your rib, thank them. But you have to be ready for it. Because some of the very, very achieved people, men and women, there are a lot of women also who did. The advanced composite machine was developed by a mission. Young person, will of course, Dr. Kalam was a chairman, etc., but they will do. So, those type of things, if you know that is how the change is an agonizing process for those who are trying to effect changes. Once you realize that this is a fact and then keep doing work, you get into harmony. Not by success you get it, ecstasy, but again you will face new problems. That's the reality of life, but it comes also by management studies of S-curve and other things, etc. I left DST, but continued still in TIFAC. DST was the government, which is I got transferred. Then CIA, Confederation with our Indian industry, that gave me a very deep insight about how industries work. You need to work with them. I was a paid employee. Tarun Das told me, Mr. Rao, I didn't know that you are leaving. If you are leaving, private sector will take me. And Ratan Tata was ready to take me, but he was very busy. So he says, don't, I can give you, just I can take care only like a government, little better than government. But I can't pay. But you will have a national expo. So I did quite a bit on variety of fields. And Dr. Kalam also in 92 coming there, it became a great deal because this one, he also got introduced to CIA. He used to take a lot of interest in their promoting technologies with the industry because he has also that Sarabhai's thing of trying to use beyond space. So fiberglass, trying to do some boards, all that he used to try. But many of them were not successful in within those organizations. Then doing something for Punjab, even when Badal was this thing, then later I went to PTU. That gave me thing with the education. See, it's not enough to have big structure organization, they are very important. Then lot of the small industries have to be imbibed. Lot of technological business strength of there are a lot of books by me on that. Articles, everything in my website and other things. Then how to create the human material. Even when I was in ISRO, I realized, see, we trained many of our technicians. But I realized that India's one engineer, PhD, in Japan had 14 technicians. In India, we were not doing diplomas at all. And those diplomas were theoretical. Done in a way that will go for BE. They had their own reasons, very, very complex reasons. So, these aspects of human resources, higher education, then later in school education, because I came back to, when I left PTU, Tarun Das told me, come back. I was, this thing at that time, a lot of school education, then also skills. That is the people who do. I was studying more and more of it. 70% of Indian children, you say democratic dividend, they are not going out of 5th standard. After the RTE came, that is right to education, they said 8. But they don't learn anything more. But it is that which gives. When I was in school in those days, we had to do skill work, book binding and all. I even know I can do book binding, cutting, all that. So these things are all taken out. So these type of things is what I got involved more and more. Of course, space I was keeping in touch. As I said, it is space security is one item, which was a thing I used to be some early pioneers for studies by Canadian institution. They used to pay me for going, some filling up things, etc. Because once you have things which will go big, as long as a small research, okay, it is to survive and then contribute where people will do, you have to become bigger and bigger. When you start doing it in actual doing this one, commercial thing starts. Commercial thing starts, then military uses are a part of it. You can't escape. In fact, I have given a talk made of a work by S. Chandrasekhar. During his talk, he didn't mention it. Yes, he is actually deeply involved in space even now. a fine work. We used to exchange quite a bit. A fine work, space, war, and security. NIA's one document was published. And based on that, I gave it IIT Roorkee. That whole thing is there in the YouTube. You cannot get out. That the first phase was romantic phase of space research and 50s. Then it became a little bit competition, but still everybody talked about cooperation in the 60s and 70s. Then, because of a huge commercial potential, this competition also became contentious because military started using it a great deal. And that whole history of how it developed, whether the Vietnam War, what are the technologies Americans tested, all that will be there. Even the current wars which take place, each of them will have a space technology tested under 1991. Americans tested many things, tracking and data relay, satellite and all that. We know. People like us know. Myself, Chandrasekhar and a few others, we used to keep following these things up. Professor Dhawan was deeply aware of it, but though he won't talk about any of them. So, it is this. So, that is the era in which we are now. The space is a dominant, it's not a new frontier, it is a dominant frontier. And it is also a big business, which people thought that it will not go in. And it has also been given to private sector. ISRO was lagging. Even though everybody felt yes, it took. Now, fortunately, the in-space has been formed. It will release the energies of. Why I mentioned about Ratilal, Panjal and Garg, etc. They did it in a most difficult situation. There are so many Indians now. Many, despite the fact what I said that 70% of the Indians are completely dumped out, but still the 20% which go or 10% which goes up still is a large number because every year there is 20 million. Now only it has come down to some 13, 14. So every year 2 million to 3 million young boys and girls are with a lot of talents are being created, are there into the market. They have to be unleashed. And that is what hopefully I see. I don't know whether I will be able to be there long. It will take another 10 years where India made industries. But when I say India made, right from the Sarabhai's time to Dhawan's and etc., we were never thinking in terms of isolationism. It was cooperation, sometimes competition, but you have to work. But it can't be something that you are under receiver and then somebody will give you. No. You have to be as strong as they are and then do the cooperation as much necessary because the supply chain is so big. There's no point of trying to say that I will be self-sufficient. Nobody can, not even America. So, we deeply in this, that is the future. That's what I tell many young people. Don't just think I am proud to have been in ISRO. But now you have to be think in terms of the many industries which are coming in, foreign or anything which are coming in. ISRO will still be the mother. It will give many things. But it is not necessary that everything, even in our ISRO strategy group report, which I said Somanath and another 200 fellows, we are given a name. ISRO, it is for the ISRO which they have to work with a quote. It's a broader India-based space program, which may have cooperation, which may have multiple links, startup, industry, institution, whatever they are. And that has to be linked with lot of connected items. Otherwise, it won't succeed. Whether it is Indian space communication, which is there, with the mobile towers and this one, that one, the supply, including the clerk who gives the mobiles, does those things. If they were not there, only launching a communication satellite is no use. I have given a talk very recently to a group of young, it was a good interactive talk, they asked questions also. On Vikram Sarabhai they wanted. I said, Vikram Sarabhai, what is the relevance for 21st century? In another place, impact on IIT Hyderabad, impact on space program. One of these things. In that only I have given a detail. No, this is something I want all the people who are listeners, young, old and other thing. no technology. Yes, space was a breakthrough technology. Atomic energy was. There are many other things which are there. You can tell many other items. But none of them can succeed unless they are clustered with several other things which not necessarily related to them. I will tell lastly, good social impacting. All I have been talking about commerce, with that I will end. Will be, in fact, I told it in those talks also, that school and as well as this, is that how that supply chain works. And when it is not there, it doesn't work. 1977 floods in Andhra. Cyclones in the eastern coast is very common. Odisha, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha and Bangladesh. It will hit some of them, especially Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, these things they get more. Tamil Nadu escapes the transition. Now, this deaths was taken common. Everybody will cry, report. 1977, it was 10,000 deaths. 10,000. One followed by 4 zeros. Earlier, many other things have been there depending upon the intensity of the cyclone. Now, after the INSAT pictures started coming down. Now, hardly you will hear few deaths. It will be 2 digits. That also some fellows who are defied. But it is all not through space technology. It tracks and then gives. Then you have to have radars. Then you have to have communication. The whole supply chain of training up to the villagers and then writing the sheds and then giving a supply of medicine, supply of food. You look at it. What about 10,000 items will be involved? The local administration, panchayat, training, different languages. So I tell the young people, everything, even on this, it should not have worked without that cluster. Now it is doing well. So anything you do, anything you want to make impact, you have to have that cluster. This is something which Sarabhai had seen. Basic research to ultimate end use. All should be involved, and then somebody cannot say, he says that he blasts. On one side, he has also criticized bureaucracy and the rules. At the same time, he has also criticized scientists. He says, we accept, Aram say 7 years, 8 years, sit there. You have to do fast. He says, unless you learn to do things in 2 years and then keep swimming, your head up. This is a competitive world. He has given it there. So that is still true. Now within 2 years, many things have to be done. People have to learn how to get into the supply chain. Many from ISRO have learned to quit and do this also. Hopefully some of these new developments will take place. I used to tell people, come on, go. Don't worry. But in those days, opportunities were low. Now there is a 1:100. If ISRO is 1, there will be 100 outside. And that is what it is. ISRO will grow, they will grow. ISRO for me means space program. I am the Bandhini with the Indian space program. So this is what it is. Great pleasure. One can keep talking on it, but it is something for the younger generation. I wish. Somebody says, you have a wish? If I come back, say born now, in another 20 years, I will be in India, which will be a very important dominant player in space program with many young people contributing some new things. You need not say that, oh, that was there, we followed that one, etc. New thing is going to happen. I'm almost sure. Those who are around 10, 12 now, those children are particularly blessed. They have to work hard, they can enjoy also. Many opportunities. But not limited only to space, they can do anything else. There are so many things in life. Music, anything. Sarabhai spent some time as a compeer for his wife, 5 years. Art, music, many things. That's what it is.
Thank you for listening in to this episode of the NewSpace India podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share this episode with anyone you believe will enjoy listening to it. You'll be able to find the NewSpace India podcast in any of the podcasting platforms that you may be using, including Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and others. Do subscribe to the podcast in case you want to receive new episodes automatically. I'm grateful if you're able to leave a rating for the podcast, which will help others discover it. Thank you for listening in again, and the next episode will be out in the next 2 weeks as usual.